Hi, my name is Cathy Neptune and welcome to my kitchen. I'm going to share tips, tools, and recipes to make your time in the kitchen fun, fast, and fabulous. Tonight we're going to celebrate the Irish holiday coming up, St. Paddy's Day, and I'm using a recipe out of an Irish cookbook from my friends Jen and Jim and their family, and it was so beautifully presented. I'm going to do a fisherman pie. And what I love about this is you could put your favorite combination of seafood in this, or do a single seafood, whatever you'd like, whatever's in season. And in New England, it's always fish season around here. We have fabulous seafood. And then we're going to do a nice bright citrus salad with some fresh greens. And for dessert, I can't wait to share a sunshine cake because we're doing this in the microwave in 12 minutes. You're not going to believe how easy and fun it is, and it comes out really well. So let's get started on our fisherman's pie, and it depends on what you have in your freezer section. Tonight I'm using a fresh white fish. This could be a flounder, it could be a haddock, scrod, cod, whatever white fish, tilapia, whatever you like, and I'm cutting it in kind of the same size pieces as we're using in here. We also have little bay scallops, or you could use sea scallops, but I cut them into halves or quarters, and some peeled, deveined raw shrimp. So you can see you want them all about the same size so they cook evenly. You don't ever want to overcook your seafood because there's just no need to do that and spoil the integrity of the seafood. It's just so easy to do. Now, I wouldn't use an oily fish in this, like salmon or a mackerel or anything like that. I think it's just too heavy a fish to do that with. So we're going to put that in there. And to this, I'm going to add a little bit of melted butter because butter makes everything better. And put a little drizzle, maybe 2 tablespoons, approximately that much. Maybe 3, because butter and seafood is unnatural together. We're just going to toss this. And let's season this too with approximately that much salt. About 2,112 grains if you're counting. Oh, 13. One didn't make it in the bowl. And we're going to toss that around, and we have 2 different ways I'm going to present this. And I'm going to put this in an individual dish because Valentine's Day is coming up, or if you want to make a nice romantic dinner. This is for 2. And this is another presentation. I like to give you different ideas on how to use the special dishes that you have. So we're going to pour this in here, but before I do that, I'm going to take a little bit of milk. And this is a great tip when you're doing seafood, just a little bit. You can see on the bottom of the dish, and this is going to steam, just a little coating on the bottom. And much like you'd have milk in a seafood, milk and seafood is very compatible together. And together with the butter we've incorporated into the seafood, it's going to give you a nice steamy, a flavorful base and keep the moisture in the seafood, especially if you were in an area that you didn't have access to fresh seafood. Then you want to utilize all the resources you have to make it appealing and taste fresh. So we're going to put a little bit into each little casserole dish, like so. So how hard was that? This you could prepare ahead of time if you'd like. And then we're going to set that aside, and we're going to do our toppings. And in our seafood casserole here, and remember we put a little bit of salt. You could put pepper in there too. I wouldn't use a black pepper. I like a white pepper. It's a little bit lighter in flavoring, especially with seafood. So tonight I'm just doing some salt. Excuse me. So in here we have some cracker crumbs, just a regular round cracker. And you want a 2-to-1 ratio on your crumb topping that you're using. So we're going to do about a third of the cracker crumbs in there, and then probably a good handful of fresh breadcrumbs. And I always do this when I have leftover bread. I just take it and leave it out during the day until it gets stale, basically, and then put it in the processor and in a freezer bag, and you put it in your freezer. Then you always have fresh breadcrumbs on hand, and it's a great way to use up those leftovers, especially the heels. And we're going to add to this some walnuts. And I would put in, these are already chopped, but I like to use my chopper and make a lot of noise. So we're going to put it in here. And don't forget, if many of you have written in about the resources for these wonderful tools. So we'll probably do about a third a cup of walnuts. Let's put in a few more. This is such a rich combination with the crackers, the breadcrumbs, and the cracker crumbs in the walnuts. Very well. They go very well together. So we have some melted butter here. I'm going to add a little bit of olive oil to the butter and incorporate that into our bread mixture. And it's probably a quarter stick of butter in the same amount or a little less olive oil. You know how I am at measuring. So you can measure if you want, or if you want these recipes. So many of you have emailed me, and I'm happy to give you the exact amounts as close as I can. And we're using fresh garlic. Again, my favorite garlic press. And use fresh if you can. It's so much better. Look at this, wraps right around the foot. And I throw it in the trash. It's not on the floor. It goes in the trash. So probably 2 cloves of garlic. And to flavor in the butter. Like so. And then we're going to add, let's put a little bit at a time in our breadcrumbs. I have my oven preheating at 350. And then drizzle this. And I just do this till it looks well coated. You want your breadcrumbs and cracker crumb mixture to look like sand, basically. So you just stir it around. Boy, does that smell good. And we're going to do a breadcrumb mixture on one. And I think we have a question from, hi Mary, how are you?
Hi, how are you?
Good, thanks. Thanks for coming tonight. So what was your question?
I would like to do something similar in a gluten-free form. So
Oh.
I would have to use gluten-free breadcrumbs and gluten-free crackers in order to make that work.
Can you get gluten-free crackers?
You can get gluten-free crackers that are very similar to Ritz.
Oh, and that's perfect. That would be perfect. Absolutely. Because we're going for the crunch here when you bake this. You're going to get a nice coating on top. So we happen to have 2 different variations that I'll show you. We have some gluten-free breadcrumbs that are like panko breadcrumbs, which would be very nice on top. And right now we're going to add these breadcrumbs on top. And you could add lobster to this if you'd like, or crab if it's in season. Whatever your family would like. It just smells so good in here. And that's one recipe. I'm going to put this over here. We're going to move that out of the way so we don't get any cracker crumbs and contaminate these other gluten-free ones. And then on this one here, I wanted to show you what I did with a raw potato. I sliced it lengthwise, you know, it was a small potato, into petals, and I stacked them, and then I took one of the petals and made a little circular one and set it right in the hole in the middle. I spritzed it with some olive oil, or you could use butter on top if you'd like. And then I pre-baked it in the microwave for about 10 minutes, just so I could do this ahead of time. And it wouldn't turn brown when you cook it for 2 minutes. The potatoes won't turn color. And the way I did this is I actually took the potatoes and the wax paper and put it on top of here while I was forming the design on top, so I knew exactly the size. So we're going to do one with potatoes, and this would be gluten-free, Mary. And we're just going to slide it off of here because I took the paper and I sprayed it with a non-stick spray so it slides right off like so. And that, I think that makes a pretty nice looking presentation. I'm going to take a little bit of the butter and put that over the top. Anytime you can get a little more butter into anything would be good. Now, gluten, you mentioned, Mary, I got a lot of good information from Mary about gluten-free. The butter is gluten-free because it doesn't have wheat in it, right? So you can use regular pieces. And I'm going to wash my hands so I don't contaminate this because I was working with breadcrumbs, which is important to do. How's that sound, Mary? Yeah. Because I know what it is. I have a friend who's gluten-free, and it's a terrible thing if you get contaminated. So I'm drying my hands, and this is some panko breadcrumbs, which is crispy, and I thought we'd give this a try. And you wouldn't have to vary this at all, because we're going to put these on top of the potatoes, just a dusting, and it'll give it a nice crunch. This is nice, too, if you wanted to do Parmesan cheese on the top, because you can have Parmesan cheese, right? So I have a toothpick through the middle of this that we'll take out after it's baked, but just a little bit. And I think, you know, if it wasn't me, I'd be impressed, because I think that looks pretty nice. So we have that one. And then I did another idea. On this one, I just took the potatoes and I just lined them up the same way that we sliced them. And did the same thing, 2 minutes in the microwave. And we'll just put those on the top like so. Let's alternate them so they look a little interesting this way. And then we'll do the same thing, brush them with a little butter. So you could do this. Do you think you'd try this at home, Mira?
Oh, yeah.
Yep. It's a beautiful company dish, or on Valentine's Day, or want to make a special occasion from this. It's really nice. And these don't take very long in the oven at all. And I'm going to put some more of the panko breadcrumbs, gluten-free. Isn't it nice to have all those substitutions, huh? Really nice. And you could probably even do a topping with the gluten-free panko breadcrumbs and the regular breadcrumbs and add the butter and the olive oil and the garlic, just as I did. So those are two different ways, and we're going to put these in the oven and bake them. I'm going to check them after about 20 minutes to see if they're done, and when we come back, we're going to do our citrus salad. Be right back. Hi, welcome back. We have our seafood pie in the oven, and about 20-25 minutes. We're going to take it out, and we're going to prepare our salad right now, and we're going to do a citrus glaze to go, or a dressing, if you will, to go with it. And we have in here, I thought I'd show you several different variations of olive oils, which I think are very interesting. My friend Michelle gave me this wonderful balsamic vinegar that I'll be using. We also have a apple cider vinegar that's good. And then some of the oils that I have, this we have, of course, olive oil, but this is a macadamia nut oil. You could use a walnut oil, a raspberry oil. You can make your own oil and infuse it, warm it up just slightly, not to boiling, but warm it slightly and put it over fresh herbs and leave it in your refrigerator overnight. Strain out the herbs and put it in a bottle and keep it in your refrigerator. That's important, and bring it to room temperature. And then use it as you will. Basil oil, I'm sure you've heard about, and garlic, and sometimes I put a little lemon peel in there as well. It makes great variations. So be adventuresome on the different oils and vinegars that you use. There's even places now, they look like wine tasting rooms where you can go and select your olive oils and wines, and I really encourage you to experience that. It is so fun because you can taste them all. They'll even do your own blends, And they're packaged in these little gift packets like so, with the olive oils and the this type of balsamic vinegar are your choice. And it's a great gift, especially if you go into somebody's house for dinner. So I'm going to do a blend. Here we have our macadamia oil. I think actually I'm going to start with the vinegars first. And you don't have to go too crazy with the types that you use. Let's start out with a little bit of apple cider vinegar. And we want something bright for a salad, nothing too heavy. So you can use a rice wine vinegar if you want. Those are good as well. And then I'm going to incorporate some different flavors. I love to use jams and jellies to flavor. I have here an apricot and mango jelly just to put in to flavor it, because we're going to put some citrus in there, and I think it's just a great complement. Probably just a slight teaspoon. We're going to add what would be a dressing without fresh garlic again, so we're going to put in some and again, I'd encourage you to use fresh garlic if you can. And sometimes I put shallots in the dressing, but I'm going to do a red onion in here, so I think that would be a little overpowering, especially when we're doing a light citrus. So I'm not going to do that today, but you certainly could, depending on your greens. You could do kale. Today we have a nice baby spinach mix with some red cabbage and a little escarole, and makes for a nice mix. But that's what's good about these recipes. You could do whatever you prefer and whatever is convenient or seasonal. So we'll add that. I like a little Dijon mustard, and probably just a scant half a teaspoon, not very much, just to give it a piquant flavor. So just a little bit of that goes in to brighten the citrus, because the jam is very sweet. I like to always add a little lemon juice or lime juice if you want to vary it a little bit. You could do lime. I always like lemon. And probably a good tablespoon of fresh lemon juice. Oh, it smells really good. So we'll do that. And then to sweeten it up, let's add some honey. And here's another way to experiment. I'm using a raspberry honey. You can buy cranberry honeys, orange blossom honey. They all have a distinctive flavor, but use whatever you'd like and try something different. So we're going to add a good tablespoon of that, because we have the jam in here. So you don't need an awful lot of sweetness, but you want to counterbalance the oil and the vinegars that you put in. Let's start out with the whisk here, and we're going to whip that up a little, just a little, and then we're going to add a little bit of vinegar slowly. And whatever you don't use in the salad, you certainly could refrigerate and use it the next day. And then I'm going to add a little olive oil as well. Now make sure when you're using, of course, anything with nuts, that if you're making this for company, that they don't have allergies to, nut allergies, because that wouldn't be very good. So I think that looks pretty good. Mary, do you have, what kind of salad dressing do you use usually?
Depends on what I'm making.
Yeah. Do you do any homemade ones?
Not very often.
The ones on the market are so good. It's not necessary. That is really good. And you can taste the macadamia nut oil. That is really good. And the walnut oil would be great in here too, which is probably a little easier to find. So we're going to do that. We're going to slice up some of the oranges. And that dressing, you could do ahead of time. I'm going to take some mandarin oranges or clementines. Look at how pretty these are. And let's slice them, and I'm going to leave them whole and just arrange them around your salad like so. You know, sometimes I put radishes in here too for color. And we're not doing tomatoes, so you could certainly use the red radishes as well. And we're also going to do some red onions, so that's going to add a lot of color too. And get your prettiest dishes out, even if it's, you know, not company night, but use all your pretty dishes because it's so pleasing to the eye. I think that looks pretty good. And then some red onion. And you remember my little tip about doing onions. If you wanted a sweeter onion flavor, of course, you soak your onions in a combination of 2 tablespoons of water. 2 tablespoons of sugar to about 1 cup of water, and let them soak for several hours or overnight. And just keep them in your refrigerator, and you have the same as a Vidalia onion or a sweet onion. Look at how pretty this is. This is going to be so light and bright with your seafood. It's just the perfect accompaniment. You could do a rice, but I think when you have the topping, the breadcrumb topping, and even if you do the potatoes on the top of the casserole, I think that's enough starch. But if you wanted to do, you could do a rice side dish and do it in a beautiful mold. Cook it ahead of time and then reheat it in an oven-proof mold and then turn it out on a beautiful platter. And it makes a nice presentation to do a rice side dish or a nice light pilaf. And I'd add a little bit of lemon zest to your rice pilaf, again, for the brightness with the seafood. And I think it would be a really, really good way to enhance our seafood casserole. So we're going to take some of this dressing, and I would just dress it right before you serve it. And I'm thinking if we had macadamias, I'm just thinking to myself, because we use the macadamia oil, you could put macadamia nuts if you used a walnut oil. Of course, some fresh walnuts on the top. And there's our fresh and light citrus salad. Now, when we come back, we're going to show you a sunshine cake in the microwave. We'll be right back. Hi, welcome back. I'm about to assemble our sunshine cake and put it in the microwave. Our seafood pie is almost done. So we've started out here in a deep bowl with 3 eggs, and we're going to add a 1/2 cup of oil. Don't forget to send in for this recipe because you're going to want this recipe. It's really good. So we're going to mix this up. And then we're going to add in, let's see, about a teaspoon of, I'm using this Korinji cinnamon, but you can use whatever you'd like, any type of cinnamon. But this here has a little bit of cinnamon, nutmeg, and orange peel in it. And you can get this by emailing me. And we're going to use a tablespoon in there. It's approximately a whole tablespoon. There you go. Oh, it smells good. Between the seafood pie and this, it's going to be a good evening. And then we've got the eggs. We're going to add this, and we're going to mix this up. And then after we get all of this mixed, we're going to add 8 ounces of crushed pineapples with the juice. That's why I love this recipe. You don't have to fuss and strain everything. And then I have 2 cups of freshly grated carrots, and you can even do this the night before and grate your carrots. And when we get this all mixed up, we're going to come back and add those, and I'll show you how we're going to bake it. So I'm going to mix this up, and we'll be right back. Hi, welcome back. You can see we've mixed all of this together with the eggs and the oil, and it's thicker than a normal batter would be because we didn't add any liquid to it, but we are now. We're going to add this 8 ounces of crushed pineapple, not drained, and that's going to add a lot of the liquid, as well as the carrots. 2 cups of shredded carrots. You can use a hand grater if you want. I just do it in my food processor. It's just so much easier. And I kind of pack it down in there. The more carrots, the better. So I'll fold those in. I guess this is a healthy cake if there is such a thing. It's kind of like a salad and dessert all in one. And then remember, we put the cinnamon in there, so that's really going to shine through. And make sure that it's all well mixed in. So we have a little background music. And it takes a little bit of muscle power. And then we're going to use our bundt pan that's ceramic. And you want something that's oven safe in your microwave. Don't use a metal pan. But if you wanted to use a regular metal baking pan, you would bake this in a 350-degree oven for about 40 minutes or until the cake tester comes out clean. So we're just doing this in the microwave. So I have a dish that, oh, let's add the walnuts too. We have about half a cup of chopped walnuts. And again, make sure everybody can have walnuts so they don't have any allergies. And the glaze, the nonstick glaze in here, this is so good. And if you email me, I'll be happy to send you the recipe. But I use this as a nonstick coating on all your pans. And we've talked about that before. It's a third, a third, and a third. A third cup of flour, a third cup of vegetable shortening, and a third cup of oil that you whisk together and keep it in your refrigerator for like forever. And whenever you need a nonstick surface, it won't discolor or give you a buildup on your sheet pans, which can happen after a while. And it's convenient, it's inexpensive, and it's always available for you. So that is one of my favorite all-time tips that I've been using for years. And you want your bundt pans to come out when you bake them. You know, when you turn something out, especially if they're very detailed and have all these little crevices, you want them well seasoned and able to come out. So we're going to take this in there. We're going to go over to our microwave, and we're going to cook this on high for 12 minutes. And then we're going to let it set. Make sure it's in the center for another few minutes. Oops. Let it set for another 10 minutes on its own to finish cooking from the inside out. The heat of it will continue cooking in the as it sets. So that's an important thing to know. So now we're going to do a cream cheese glaze to go on the top. And I'm not a very big baker. I like this kind of recipe is perfect for me because you start with a cake mix and then just add things to it. So it's a good thing to have in your repertoire. Now I've softened 4 ounces of cream cheese, or I've done it in the microwave, or you can just leave it out on the counter for an hour or so till it comes to room temperature and nice and soft. And then slowly I'm going to add about 2 tablespoons of milk. Now we're going to make this, because it's a glaze or a drizzle over the top, it's going to be a little runnier, if you will, than a frosting. So we don't even have to frost a cake, which is my kind of cake decorating or cake frosting. And you want to add it a little at a time so it doesn't get lumpy, but if you have lumps, it's no big deal. So you can tell I'm measuring very carefully, because you can always add a little more or a little less, because we're going to add confectioner's sugar to this. Do you know what confectioner's sugar is? If you don't have confectioner's sugar, you take your blender and you take regular sugar and put it in the food processor with for every cup you use a tablespoon of cornstarch and mix it up, and it gives you powdered sugar. I went to sugar school and I learned that. Mary, you're awful quiet over there.
I didn't know that to do that you had to add cornstarch. I thought you just put the sugar in the blender.
Yeah, if you're making your own powdered sugar, it makes it less, so the grains don't stick together. So it's kind of a cool trick to use. And then to this glaze, we'll probably add about a cup or so of powdered sugar. Or I'm going to do half a cup because I don't like it really heavy. So you see you can adapt this recipe. And I like the milk, and the cream cheese takes a lot of the sweetness away from it. And you don't have to, like I said, fuss a lot with having to worry about frosting the whole cake with something like this. And you want it a syrupy consistency, I guess is the best way. Now you could add lemon zest to this if you want, or orange zest, but I kind of like it like this. And you can see it's a nice steady ribbon consistency, so that's going to pour down nicely on the top of your cake when it's done. You know, it's not always good to know you can have cake in 12 minutes, but on a bad day, works for me. And thank you to everybody who writes in with your comments and your suggestions, and I get a lot of information about what you all would like to see too. So my number's right there, my email's right on the screen. Give a call, let me know what you think, what you need in your kitchen. I said before, we're going to have, one of my most popular requests is more kids in the kitchen. There's a lot of children out there just dying to get in the kitchen and cook. It's so creative for them. They learn an awful lot in the kitchen, and it's just really time well spent. So our protege star, Sally, is coming back, and wait until you see what we have planned. So probably in the springtime we're going to do that. She's been a big hit, and she is something else. So I can't wait to have her back in the kitchen. So our cake is almost finished baking. We have our wonderful glaze, our seafood pie. We're going to put all this together for you and serve you up. So we'll be right back. Look at our feast, our seafood pie, 3 ways out of the oven with a breadcrumb and cracker crumb topping. These two are different potato configurations on top. For our gluten-free friends, try it. They're amazing. Our citrus salad with a light vinaigrette. And then, of course, right out of the microwave, yes, the microwave oven, we did our pineapple and carrot sunshine cake. We've done our glaze. I added a little bit of vanilla to this, and you can see how thin it is. And I like to do this while the cake is warm, so it soaks in. You can put as little or as much as you'd like. So good. In 12 minutes on high, again in the microwave, and then we let it set in the microwave for another 10 minutes to finish cooking from the inside out. And I guess you could say this is a healthy cake. If you need an excuse to eat healthy, I guess that's the way to go. And when I serve this, even if you wanted to do an extra pool of the glaze at the bottom of a plate, that would be fine. And then I'm going to add for the top a few little walnuts. And Mary had a great suggestion too. You could even, on the bottom of your bun pan, your microwave safe bun pan, put some red or green cherries at the bottom of your bun pan before you pour the batter in. That would be a nice color as well. So there is a wonderful dessert. And I hope you try these recipes. Email them for me. And I just want to share with you. I hope you enjoy these and we make your time in the kitchen fun, fast, and fabulous. And whether you're into fashion or you're into food, may the fork be with you.